Hello, I'm Dan Plashkis, one of the co-founders and CEO of S&P Data Digital. I'm with one of my partners, another co-founder, David Bortz, who's our Chief Technology Officer. David, how you doing?
Great.
Good. We're here to talk about really two very consistent themes. One, as you may know, is a terminology called the Great Resignation. And the second we call is the Great Resistance. They're two very similar, but yet different dynamics that we're seeing in the labor marketplace today. And we're going to just talk to you about how S&P Data Digital has adapted a very, very practical and we believe, executed operating model. So I'm going to open up a general question, David. Talk to us about the different operating models we have.
Yeah, absolutely. So, today we really have, four operating models, and those four operating models have really, transformed over the last 2 years. So the first operating model is, I guess, what I'll call our traditional model, which is, premise-based contact center. We still operate formal contact centers. And going forward, we will continue to do, build to suit custom builds for any of our customers that are looking to have a premise-based solution. However, what we have seen is just a huge demand from the workforce to have alternate solutions to a work from premise. And as we all know, work from home became the status quo during COVID, and S&P Data has really developed kind of two models under that environment. So the first was a work from home model, and a work from home was really started off where basically we had all of our associates in the contact center. We had to do something with them, so we got them an Uber, had them pick up their desktops, bring their desktops home. We layered on some incremental security on top of the already secure connection, and we allowed them to continue to operate and function. As COVID progressed, we even migrated to another model, which is the work from anywhere model. And the work from anywhere model, basically, again, an extra layer of security, a BYOD, or bring your own device model, where any one of our associates can work from anywhere today within North America, and really is not fenced by that. Those regions can be expanded beyond that, but really have the capability to process transactions anywhere in the globe. What we really found, super interesting about, this period of time is, some of the greatest challenges that we had faced in the past, such as attrition and attendance, have dissipated significantly. So if we look at, 2019, where we would see, very high levels of attrition, very high levels of absenteeism. As COVID progressed and as we brought in the work from home and we brought in the work from anywhere, we continually saw our attrition rates and our attendance rates really, really improve, upwards of 400% or 500% improvement during that period of time. And today what we're seeing is that, employees are demanding that they have a work from home option. And in fact, if we look at, things like Glassdoor, we see that is the number one thing that employees are searching for today. And so we've really kind of built that accommodation to have flexible models based upon, the business demand.
It's funny, David, as you know, and I think the fact is, I always tell the story, as you know, about Amazon and Borders. And, I read a book, and the book basically highlighted, Borders went out of business. We all know that. Amazon was the upstart. And if I sort of draw you a corollary, S&P Data is the upstart, and some of these large BPOs, they're just mired in all these physical spaces. So they have a bias to return you to the physical space, right? But at the end of the day, they declared bankruptcy only to liquidate themselves out of the leases, because they could be as competitive on the books, but they were paying all this money for the leases. I think our advantage was that we weren't, we built our company, as you know, one brick at a time. It's wholly owned by three guys, and so the advantage is, the flexibility we have in these operating models, not to push a client into the wrong model. So my first comment is, we'll do whatever the client likes. Now, having said that, as you said, I think the flexibility and what we've seen in the results has stunned us. The results are not on sales programs. The results are not worse. In fact, many times they're better. The attendance for sure is much better, and the turnover is better. So what interests me, David, is, we've gone out to our client base and we've asked them, and prospects, as you know, we had a call this morning. We're asking the question, what's your policy with respect to working from home? And we've seen really 3 different models. We've seen one of our clients being very successful at bringing everyone back. In fact, they did a budget thinking a lot of people will drop out, and they over budgeted. So that really, it surprises me, but they got a great culture. But we've seen companies with also great cultures like Southwest that recently declared that all 3,200 of their customer care agents are going to be working from home. They didn't even ask the union. Surprising, but the fact was that tells me 2 things. One, the employees have demanded it, which is why they didn't go to the union. And 2, because performance, they didn't see any degradation in performance. And then we've seen sort of the middle ground where a lot of people are. And that is many CEOs have tried to impose. We've seen it at Apple, that we follow these things very closely. And the employees at Apple basically said, why are you asking me to come back to the office when we develop tools that allows people to work from home? And that's what we're promoting. So, several companies have had hard stop dates that they've moved off of. The company we called today, basically the CEO said, a very large insurance company, they basically said, on this date, you're coming back 3 days a week. 40% of the people refuse to come in.
Yeah.
So what we've done exceptionally well. So the models that we thought of is that we're not married and we don't have any legacy. That's really important. We have no legacy. Equally as important is that we've developed a proprietary recruiting platform, and it has all the components to it. It's really very well thought out. It has, it's using the latest in AI. It does consider DE&I initiatives, which are really important. And so, it's really got a lot of good components, and it's allowed us to really find not just self-create people that are raising their hands. Those that are raising their hands, speak to more of them, but it's also allowed us to predict retention. So, that's the thing. David, my view on, these jobs and who you're competing with, but, what do we say about the service industries? I'll turn it over to you.
Right. Well, listen, whether it's the service industry or the retail industry, right? These associates, they don't want to be in uncontrolled environments where they can be exposed to risk. And I think that's been a big part of it. But I also think, Dan, that there are some other elements, to it as well, right? But just think about, this next generation workforce, right? This next generation workforce has grown up with, chat and text messaging and collaboration tools, and they've been using them, whether it's in school or in business forever. And now we're enabling those, that work from home and that work from anywhere workforce to have those tools, and they communicate with each other so effectively, right? And so everything from, our coaching, right, to our, quality assurance processes, right, to, call monitoring has now, used these digital tools and collaboration tools that are really amazing. And, when we really expected to see things like, results taper off because, you're not in your controlled contact center and managing every single interval and standing over the associates, that never happened. And, it's because we've given them really the autonomy, to manage themselves. And I think that people really have a great deal of respect for that. And I think that they get bought in as a result. And I think that also starts to work to drive, tenure of associates, skill set of associates, et cetera. Right now we're seeing, frankly, we said that we were benefactors of COVID. because of this work from home model. We're benefactors of inflation today, right? Sure, we've had to adjust associate salaries, right, to make commensurate with increased costs of living, but we've reduced their transportation costs. We've given them additional time in their day. We've given them flexibility around scheduling. It's all the things that they asked for many times when we were in the structured premise-based contact center and couldn't give them, and now they have it. So I think it's really a true win-win-win, right? It's a win for our customers that are getting great NPS scores and great sales performance. It's a win for our associates because they're getting to earn more, and they're getting greater flexibility, and it's a win for S&P Data. So these are truly exciting times.
So just on, as you know, I've always said to you that you and I have always been on the forefront of the environment. And this really intrigues me. As David, you and I have raised venture capital with our CRM company, and we understand momentum. There's a lot of momentum around, reach companies that help reach the goals towards carbon neutrality, right? When you think about how many people this industry employs, we're talking about millions, not hundreds of thousands of people. And the fact that you wouldn't have to drive to work, which, by the way, for some people might cost $50 to $100 a day.
Absolutely.
But just the carbon neutral footprint and the way we're contributing to carbon neutrality, the fact that you can do these functions, which the banks never would have allowed these functions to be done over, remotely. They never, and who thought you could have, business to business Salesforce like we have for a Zoom or someone like that. You're replacing professional feet on the street. The carbon neutrality footprint, I can't speak. It makes me very proud that way. But I do, you were talking about the youth, and I honestly personally believe, I have kids. I'd like them to go to an office, meet people. Sure. Do they need to go every day? No. Did they need to battle traffic for, how many friends do we have that live in New York or New Jersey that would travel 1.5 hours each way a day? That's insane. Insane. But I do think that what we've done and our ability to locate minorities, let people live in tertiary areas, right? Disabilities, people with disabilities, and hire these people and pay extremely competitive wages is really exciting. It's a very exciting time. And with that, you get lower turnover. You create a better environment. People care about quality of life, and this is really the best balance of quality of life that we're offering. So I think that's really interesting. And listen, there's still, as you know, clients that want the premise base. They might want, we're prepared to go behind their firewall, right? That's for security reasons. I think that, we've seen, as you know, in the area of offshoring, a lot of CEOs now, we're hearing it in the marketplace, they're saying, okay, the Philippines, we're in a permanent state of endemic, right? Yeah. And they're now saying, okay, what happens when it happens again, not if it happens again? We're in Vietnam, we're in the Philippines, what's our backup strategy? And obviously when you overlay sometimes the NPS scores too, you really can see that, there's a lot of market pull towards our North American, our Mexico, Canada, US view. So anyways, just to wrap up, I mean, from a technical point of view, it's worked well. I'd love you to talk a little bit of a different departure, but how have we had with respect to our candidates and associates with respect to having the proper setup at home, which includes speed of internet. How are we addressing that? How much a factor that is? Probably just speak a bit technically. Yeah. And any challenges.
Yeah, for sure. So part of our work from anywhere model, we developed a secure remote worker platform, and that secure remote worker platform really allows us to has an onboarding process that really allows us to be able to evaluate an associate's desktop or laptop. And we also use it for our for our desktop, our BYOD model. When it does that, it does a couple things. First of all, it validates their IP address, so we actually know exactly where they are in the world. That's a key thing for us, right? Secondly, it looks at everything from their CPU. It actually looks at the health of their device to ensure it doesn't have any any kind of cyber insurrections or any form of viruses that could potentially infiltrate our network. And then it validates their speed and validates that the applications that we use for our clients will be able to meet those requirements. And we see a very, very high pass rate, right? We see pass rates north of 95%, with probably the only knockout things with customers or associates that have Macs or Google Chromebooks. For sometimes they don't work, but we have very, very high pass rates. The technology is able to validate it, and we've seen no degradation of service just doesn't exist, right? It's a very important thing. We don't see negative contacts. We don't see fall off of telephone calls. None of that, because we truly validate that upfront before they connect. Interestingly, in the work from home model, we've actually done also some unique technology. And so what we did is we actually have a device. It's a small little desktop footprint, and it's probably 8 inches by 2 inches. And when you come into the office, you plug it in into your monitor, into your keyboard and your headset, and it works perfectly on the network. And when you go to your work from home days, you take that exact same device with you, plug it into your monitor, your keyboards that you have at home, and you basically have your own personal device that's been secured and built based on our network. And the fact is, we've actually not only done that for the work from home, but we've also done customized builds for individual clients that have very specific desktop requirements that are different than our standard. And so it's really great, and it becomes just part of the quality of service that we deliver from a technical perspective.
Right. So just looking forward, I mean, I think that from an economy, there's a perfect storm. We're seeing high inflation, just sort of wrap it up, high inflation, which will raise wages. We're seeing people self-selecting and not wanting to go to work. So more demand for job, more supply for jobs than there is demand. And then at the same time, it doesn't make sense. We're seeing a lot of tech companies cut back on their hiring. And then the fourth dynamic is companies, I just read about DocuSign, they can't keep their salespeople. And so high turnover, and depending on what segment, the help wanted signs are much more prevalent in, hospitality, which is really busy now, cyclically very busy, and retail, and for the reasons you sort of know. So it's a really incredible time. David, it's a great time to be thinking out of the box. And I think when I characterize S&P Data Digital and the way you and I think is we're extremely entrepreneurial, we're able to scale, and we think out of the box. And I think the whole message we want to get is we want to take the client one by one, create a unique solution for them, but ultimately provide a solution that they want and that we recommend is best for their customers. And so we're really excited, and we'd love to talk about these solutions and some of the economic and industry challenges as they come up. So David, thank you again, as always, for joining me. And we look forward to discussing with anyone that wants to talk about S&P Data Digital and the great resignation and the great resistance.
Great. Thank you, Dan.